Welcome to Merlin's Stamps. This is the study of stamps from Bohemia and Moravia. This is also the study of Czechoslovakian stamps because that's what happened to Czechoslovakia. It became a part of Bohemia and Moravia. And we'll talk about that. All right. I've been collecting postcards and stamps for about 55 years. Union Oil postcards are very popular on the West Coast. Most of the reason that I got into Czechoslovakian stamps was because it's part of my family heritage, and the best way to learn about a country is to go ahead and see what type of stamps they've got and how. Now, the overview for today's course. What is a dead country? I have the definition of a dead country, a short history of Bohemia and Moravia and its location, and we're going to concentrate on the year of 1939 to 1940, and this was a time period where Bohemia and Moravia had stamps of their own design. Even though Bohemia and Moravia is Czechoslovakia, they had their own design. All right, dead country. Overall definition of a dead country is a nation or political entity which no longer exists. At one time, they actually made stamps, they made banknotes, laws, rules, and etc. They're now gone. And the one of the biggest examples is a puppet state. A puppet state is some sort, in reality, as a sovereign government, is actually ruled by someone else, another foreign power. And in the example that I've got off the web, it actually says Bohemia and Moravia was a very good example. Okay. Here is a stamp, is the map of Bohemia. In 1938, this area of Czechoslovakia was given to Germany because there were so many Germans living in that area, supposedly. The area left over was named Bohemia and Moravia, and then Slovakia down here. All of this was Czechoslovakia before that time period. So that gives you an idea of where we're talking about. Now, at the end of 1939, after they had been invaded by the German army, they began to make their own stamps. When they did their own stamps, this is again a blown up version, when they did start to make their own stamps, they had to use the Czechoslovakian stamps and overprint them. And you'll see here there's 3 lines as an overprint: Bohemia, Moravia, Bohemia, Moravia in Deutsch and in Czechoslovakia. There were a lot of mistakes made on these, a lot, but they were probably done for a very good reason. Now, here are the real stamps. I'm sorry, I'll go this way. Here are the stamps 1 through 19 under Scott's listing, and you'll see that they're very good quality stamps with an overprint, and the overprint, like I said, was horrible. Now, these are the first stamps of Bohemia Moravia, their own design. These are the first right here, and they were printed by a photogravure process on unwatermarked paper. Now, why unwatermarked paper? Well, there's a very good reason for it. They never believed that these Bohemian Moravian stamps would be around, because once they won the war, Bohemia and Moravia was going to become part of Czechoslovakia. So they didn't put a whole lot into it. Now, how they were printed out, here we go. The first group of stamps were printed out on 2 sheets, each sheet of 100 each, and you'll notice that there is a gutter literally right down the middle. And in some cases this gutter is very important because there are some cases where the blocks of 4 are saved. The gutter is very important because you can see right away that it takes both of these to do that. Okay. You see here I've blown up the linden leaves a little bit more, and you can see that in this case a block of 4, it's actually a block of 8, and you'll notice that there's a gutter in the middle, so you have 2 blocks of 4 with a block of 8 with the gutter in the middle. These are very highly prized because they're fairly difficult to get. Alright, because it takes from both sheets. Okay. Here's our basic, remember this is a blown up again, of our linden leaves, and this was the design. Now, they're closed buds. You notice the buds are closed, because later on you'll see the buds are open. The linden, well, you kind of wonder, why would you have a linden leaf as your very first stamp? Well, the linden is a tree that grows, and its dried flowers, leaves, and barks are used as a medicinal for sore throat, stuffy nose, breathing problems. The list just goes on and on. It has been a home remedy for many years. So your very first stamp by an occupying country is, we're going to give you something that, is medicinal, that that we would give as a medical. And it was kind of a nice thing to do. Now, the words Bohemia and Moravia were now, than before, the und was always just a U, a shorthand of German. Now it is und, which is the long German word of and the Czechoslovakia and Moravia stayed the same. And the very first issue of these was in July 29th of 1939, which basically was about 3 to 4 months after they had invaded. The linden leaves had many, many printing errors. Oh my gosh. A lot of your printing errors were only because of the photogravure process. Photogravure process, basically you take the plates and you put acid on them. The acid eats away what you don't want, and then what's left over is what you get on the plate. Well, that leaves a lot of little mistakes. There are very few mistakes in the actual printing of the words, but there are a lot of mistakes dealing with the actual backdrop, leaves, numbers, etc. Something is left out. Okay. Scott's catalogs number 27 through 39 is then, after they did the linden leaves, they went on to the next phase, which was castles, landscape, famous Czech churches, which are very, very predominant in the countryside. So basically what you have now is you have very beautifully engraved stamps, and they're beautifully engraved with little or no mistakes whatsoever, and that played a big part in they had beautiful stamps up to this stage. All right. One of the engravers was very ingenious because he wanted the world to know that he was in the process of helping make these stamps. So what he did is he put a hidden G in usually the left-hand corner somewhere on that stamp. And he was very good at hiding where it really was. His name was Goldschmied, and to this day people are still looking. I'll give you an example. Goldschmied, if you'll notice in the picture, there's a fountain there. And on that fountain he has got the G. If you go to the actual church and look at the fountain, there is no G there. All right. He also was very good at putting, especially if it was a city scene of a fountain where the birds were sitting, he'd have the birds sitting in a G. So he was very good at what he did. But like I said, people are still to this day looking for Goldschmidt's hidden G's all over the place. Some of them probably could have been by accident. All right. Now we're back to, again, the actual stamps from the country. They were very well done. The stamps were printed on a rotary process, steel engraved plates, on unwatermarked paper, of course, and they were perforated at 12.5. The cheaper ones were perforated at 14. The more expensive engraved were at 12.5. And these stamps had very, very, very few errors. I can't stress that enough because they really are very good. All right, during this time period, Scots number 1 through 30 was when they were setting up their printing there at, you'll notice that they used, in their printing, they used instead plate numbers. 1A or 4 or whatever, but they were using plate numbers. And they used that from stamps, like I said, 1 through 30. Then they changed, because that is a pretty complex way of keeping track of your plates. They went to a much simpler way, and that is just a star in the corner. And these, again, are what people try to save. Again, you have a block of 3, 4 with a blank, and with the, of course, the plate number. All right. Topography. Okay, whoops, there we go. Now we finally come to the end of the year, and we're coming to what they finally, and that was the newspaper stamps. Now in August of 1939, they came up with a new set of newspaper stamps, and let me explain a little bit to those that don't understand why newspaper stamps were so important. Back in the days, you lived in a small village, and getting the newspaper to you could be tough. So the easiest way to do it is to just put a stamp on it and you mail it in the mail. And yes, it may be there 2 or 3 a week late, but at least it's there. And it's continually coming there, and you've paid for its delivery. So they came up with newspaper stamps. Now, they were printed very easily with topography. Topography is basically just printing, just straight printing. That's all it is. And you'll see that, again, it was on unwatermarked paper, and they were in sheets of 100. They were all imperforated. That means there were no perforated lines around them. You had to cut them with the scissors, okay? The newspaper stamps, again, came with the Bohemia and Moravia and the Czechoslovakia on the top, and the plate numbers were basically in the bottom left and right corner. Nothing too exciting. It was a carrier pigeon with a carrying a flower in his beak. One more item. Sorry about that. Here you see that one of the number 10 newspaper stamp has actually got an overprint. And the overprint was GDOD. Now GDOD stands for, in the German shorthand, GD is commercially printed material. The OT is Czech shorthand for business shop forms. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the actual stamps. These are the stamps that come from a dead country that was literally overrun by the Nazi regime, the Nazi army, and many brave people didn't come back. Let's not forget those people that perished because of this occupation. Thank you for your time in watching this course on Bohemia and Moravian stamps during the German army occupation. You know, history has always been a great thing. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's tough, sometimes it's wonderful, sometimes it's great, and there are other times where it's uplifting and it shows the people where you can go if you want. Until then, goodbye.